When you hear politicians brag about a strong job market, but half the people you know are getting laid off, it starts to feel like they're talking about a different country than the one you're living in. Everywhere you turn, the numbers are going the wrong way. Unemployment is climbing past 6% nationwide. People who thought their jobs were safe are suddenly staring at email subject lines that say restructuring, downsizing, or position eliminated. And while the paychecks disappear, the bills don't slow down for a second. Rent wants $1,200 a month. Gas sits stubbornly around $5 a gallon. A normal grocery run for a family easily hits $350. And if you lose your job, you're expected to somehow survive on unemployment checks that barely touch $500 a week before taxes. The math doesn't add up, no matter how many times you run it. From the outside, it might look like a cooling economy or a market correction. But when you're the one trying to stretch a shrinking paycheck across rising prices, it doesn't feel like a soft landing. It feels like the ground is cracking underneath you. Whole neighborhoods are changing in real time. Factories going dark, office buildings sitting half empty, for lease signs popping up where small businesses used to be. This isn't just a slowdown, it feels like an economic earthquake, and in some places, the shaking is a lot worse than others. Because right now, in the year 2025, there are states where layoffs are exploding, savings are evaporating, and the American dream doesn't just feel out of reach, it feels like it's being ripped away. In this video, we're going to walk through 10 US states where job losses, housing costs, and everyday expenses collide so violently that staying afloat is becoming nearly impossible. And you'll probably recognize more than a few of them. Number 10. Kentucky. Kentucky doesn't usually show up in national headlines about job losses, but in 2025, it's becoming one of the quiet warning signs that America's job market really is collapsing. The state's unemployment rate has climbed to 4.7%, one of the highest in the country, and the jobs disappearing aren't small or replaceable. They're core industries that entire communities depend on. Manufacturing is being hit on all sides. Auto parts factories, aluminum plants, and food processing facilities are cutting shifts or shutting lines down entirely. Coal country, which was already struggling, is losing even more jobs. And the logistics hubs around Louisville and northern Kentucky, once booming hiring machines, are suddenly slowing down. For thousands of workers, the paycheck they counted on simply isn't there anymore. The cost of living makes the situation even worse. Rent in cities like Louisville and Lexington can easily reach $1,100 to $1,300 for a one-bedroom, while most jobs pay $15 to $20 an hour. Unemployment checks average around $550 a week, which barely covers rent, groceries, and gas, especially in rural areas where long drives are part of daily life. Even housing, traditionally Kentucky's safety net, has turned into another financial trap. Home prices in many areas now sit around $250,000 to $300,000, and with interest rates above 7%, a regular family is looking at mortgage payments over $2,000 a month, completely out of reach for the average Kentucky household. Groceries, utilities, and basic necessities have jumped too, and small towns are feeling it the hardest. Local stores are closing, school budgets are shrinking, and families who once felt financially stable are now living paycheck to paycheck, hoping nothing unexpected happens. Kentucky might not be the first state people think of when they hear job market collapse, but the reality on the ground makes one thing clear. If even states like this are struggling, what comes next for the rest of the country could be far worse. Number 9. Alaska. Alaska's job market is cracking fast, and with an unemployment rate of 4.7%, it's tied with Kentucky as one of the weakest in the country. And the problem is simple. Almost all of Alaska's major industries are under pressure at the same time. Oil and gas, the foundation of Alaska's economy, is dealing with unstable prices, delayed drilling, and shrinking work crews. When energy slows down here, entire towns lose their income overnight. Fishing and seafood processing, another major employer, is facing smaller harvests, tighter quotas, and rising costs, leaving seasonal workers with fewer jobs and lower pay. And the tourism sector, which Alaska counts on every summer, isn't providing the lifeline it used to. Fewer visitors mean hotels, tour companies, and cruise-related businesses are cutting staff or shortening their seasons. The cost of living only makes the collapse hit harder. A one-bedroom in Anchorage can run $1,300 to $1,500. Groceries cost significantly more than in the lower 48, and gas prices spike whenever shipping costs rise. Unemployment checks in the $500 to $600 range barely cover essentials, and in many rural communities where there's only one major employer, one layoff doesn't just hurt a household, it impacts the entire town. When jobs dry up here, there's nowhere else to go. Alaska shows how fragile the U.S. job market has become. If a resource-rich state like this is struggling, it's a clear sign that the economic cracks are spreading everywhere, and fast. Number 8. Massachusetts. Massachusetts might look strong on paper, but its job market is cracking underneath. With unemployment climbing to 4.8%, the state now ranks among the worst in the country, and the damage is spreading across industries people once assumed were secure. Tech layoffs have hit hard in Boston and Cambridge, as startups cut staff and larger companies freeze hiring or eliminate entire teams. Biotech, one of the state's signature industries, is also pulling back. Venture funding is drying up, clinical trials are being delayed, and labs that once expanded non-stop are now laying off researchers and support staff. Even education and healthcare, two of Massachusetts' most stable job sectors, are slowing hiring as budgets tighten and operating costs rise. At the same time, the cost of living makes every job loss feel like a financial emergency. A one-bedroom apartment in Boston regularly runs $2,300 to $2,800. Groceries are among the most expensive in the U.S., and commuting costs drain paychecks long before rent is due. Unemployment checks don't stretch far in a state where everyday essentials cost a premium. Middle-class families who once felt secure are now cutting expenses, downsizing, or leaving the state entirely. And as more employers trim staff, even high-skilled workers are discovering how limited the job options really are. Massachusetts isn't just dealing with layoffs, it's facing a sharp reminder that even a so-called strong economy can unravel fast. And with unemployment rising, the warning signs are getting harder to ignore. Number 7. New Jersey. New Jersey is getting hit hard by the job market collapse, and with unemployment rising to 5.0%, the state now sits near the bottom of the national rankings. The layoffs span multiple industries, and each one adds more pressure to an already expensive place to live. Pharmaceutical companies, a huge part of New Jersey's economy, have been cutting research teams, closing labs, and shifting operations out of state. Logistics hubs near Newark, which once relied on non-stop global shipping, are slowing down as trade weakens, leaving warehouse and dock workers with reduced hours or no work at all. Finance firms, another major employer, are also trimming staff as profits tighten and remote work reduces office demand. But the real problem is that losing a job in New Jersey is financially devastating. The state has some of the highest housing costs and property taxes in the entire country. A one-bedroom apartment in cities like Jersey City can reach $2,400 a month, while property taxes routinely push past $9,000 a year. When unemployment hits here, families burn through savings fast. Even basic expenses are painful. Groceries are up, gas averages close to $4 a gallon, and commuting costs continue to climb as NJ Transit raises fares. For many middle-class households, a single layoff means sliding from stability into survival mode almost overnight. New Jersey's situation is a clear warning. High-cost states are the first to feel the full weight of a job market collapse. And with layoffs spreading across its biggest industries, the financial pressure on families is only getting worse. Number 6. Ohio. Ohio is feeling the weight of the collapsing job market, and with unemployment sitting at 5.0%, the state is tied near the bottom nationwide. The industries Ohio depends on are being hit from multiple directions, and the impact is spreading fast across both major cities and small towns. Manufacturing, the backbone of Ohio's economy, is cutting thousands of jobs as factories reduce shifts or shut down lines. Automakers and suppliers across Toledo, Cleveland, and Dayton are scaling back production, leaving skilled workers with fewer opportunities and lower job security. Logistics and warehousing, which saw massive growth during the pandemic, are also cooling off as shipping volumes decline. Even healthcare and education, two of Ohio's most reliable job sectors, are tightening budgets. Hospitals are reducing staff, and school districts facing funding gaps are freezing hiring or cutting positions entirely. At the same time, the cost of living is rising faster than wages. Rent in cities like Columbus and Cincinnati has climbed to $1,200 to $1,600 for a simple apartment. Groceries and utilities are up, and families who once managed comfortably are now stretched thin. Unemployment checks only go so far, and for many households, they barely cover the basics. Small towns are getting hit the hardest. When a local plant cuts jobs, there aren't many alternatives. Businesses close, tax revenue drops, and entire communities start to hollow out. Ohio's numbers make one thing clear. The job market collapse isn't limited to expensive coastal states. It's hitting the Midwest too. And for many Ohio families, the financial strain is becoming impossible to ignore. Number 5. Oregon. Oregon's job market is sliding fast, and with unemployment at 5.0%, the state is now tied among the worst in the country. Manufacturing hubs in cities like Salem are cutting shifts or shutting down entirely. Portland's once booming tech scene is scaling back as startups lose funding and larger companies eliminate entire teams. Even tourism, a major driver of Oregon's economy, is slowing as Americans cut back on travel, leaving hotels, restaurants, and service workers with fewer hours and more layoffs. But the real blow comes from Oregon's cost of living. Rents in Portland often hit $1,800 a month. Groceries are among the highest on the West Coast, and the state's 9.9% income tax makes every paycheck feel thinner. Losing a job here means unemployment checks of around $550 a week, nowhere near enough to cover rent, food, and basic bills. The housing market isn't helping either. With average Portland home prices around $500,000, a 7% mortgage pushes monthly payments toward $3,400, completely out of reach for many middle-class families. Add rising crime, visible homelessness, and shrinking public services, and the financial stress becomes impossible to ignore. People are leaving because they can't afford to stay. Migration to Idaho, Texas, and other cheaper states keeps rising, while small towns across Oregon are watching schools lose funding and businesses shut their doors. Oregon's situation makes one thing clear. Even states known for opportunity and creativity are feeling the full pressure of America's collapsing job market, and the pain is spreading fast. Number 4. Michigan. Michigan is one of the clearest signs that America's job market is cracking. With unemployment rising to 5.2%, the state now ranks near the very bottom nationwide, and the core of the problem hits right at the heart of Michigan's identity. The auto industry is going through a painful shakeup. Ford, GM, and Stellantis have cut thousands of jobs as factories shift to automation and leaner electric vehicle production. Assembly line workers who once earned solid wages are suddenly finding their skills less in demand. Entire shifts are disappearing, and suppliers across Detroit, Flint, and Lansing are laying off workers just to stay afloat. Inflation is making the situation even tougher. In Detroit, the median household income is around $38,000, yet rents have climbed past $1,200 a month. For many families, that math simply doesn't work. High property taxes in places like Flint are pushing homeowners to leave, while grocery and utility costs continue to climb. Population decline is adding more pressure. Nearly 40,000 people have left Michigan in just the last 2 years, mostly younger workers who can't find stable jobs or affordable housing. And as people move out, schools lose funding, small businesses close, and entire neighborhoods become dotted with empty homes and abandoned buildings. Infrastructure issues only amplify the collapse. Michigan spends billions trying to repair roads, yet potholes and crumbling highways remain a daily reality. Add underfunded schools, strained public services, and rising crime in major cities, and families are left with fewer reasons to stay. Michigan isn't just dealing with layoffs, it's fighting a deep identity crisis. The industries that once defined the state are shrinking. The cost of living keeps rising, and thousands of families are being left behind in the process. Number 3. Nevada. Nevada's job market is cracking fast, and with unemployment climbing to 5.3%, the state now ranks second worst in the entire country. And the reason is simple: the industries Nevada relies on most are the ones being hit the hardest. Tourism, which makes up nearly a third of Nevada's entire economy, is slowing down. Casinos are cutting staff, hotels are reducing hours, and restaurants up and down the Las Vegas Strip are trimming payroll just to stay open. With fewer international visitors and Americans tightening their budgets, thousands of hospitality workers are suddenly left without steady income. The housing market is adding even more pressure. Home prices in Las Vegas hover around $430,000, and with 7% mortgage rates, monthly payments can reach $3,000, far beyond what laid-off workers can afford. Rent isn't much better, with many one-bedroom apartments now pushing $1,600 a month. Losing a job here means unemployment checks won't even cover the basics. Insurance costs, HOA fees, and property taxes have also jumped, eating into savings at a time when every dollar matters. And outside of Las Vegas, things look even worse. Rural towns that depend on mining and small industries are shrinking. Young people are leaving, food insecurity is rising, and gas prices near $5 a gallon make long commutes almost impossible. Crime has been climbing too, with break-ins and scams increasing as more families struggle to stay afloat. What used to feel like a low-tax, opportunity-filled state is now a place where household budgets are collapsing under job losses and soaring living costs. Nevada shows just how quickly a state built on tourism and service work can unravel when the economy slows down, and it's one of the strongest warnings yet that America's job market is in serious trouble. Number 2. California. California is one of the biggest warning signs that America's job market is collapsing. With unemployment rising to 5.5%, the state now has the highest jobless rate in the entire country, and the fallout is hitting every major industry at once. Tech companies across Silicon Valley and San Francisco are cutting thousands of workers as hiring freezes, automation, and shrinking budgets ripple through the sector. Movie studios in Los Angeles have paused productions, sending actors, editors, camera crews, and support workers home with no clear timeline for when work will return. Even agriculture in the Central Valley, one of California's most essential industries, is shedding jobs as water costs climb and exports slow down. The financial pressure on families is immediate. The median home price is still around $780,000, and with 7% mortgage rates, monthly payments can easily exceed $5,200, completely out of reach for anyone relying on unemployment checks of around $450 a week. Renting isn't any better. A one-bedroom apartment in San Francisco or Los Angeles often costs $2,800 to $3,000 a month. Basic necessities are also more expensive here than almost anywhere else. Gas frequently sits above $5.50 a gallon, and grocery bills for an average family can reach $350 a week. Even people with stable jobs feel squeezed, but for laid-off workers, it's financially crushing. The long-term consequences are already visible. More than 800,000 people have left California in the past few years, draining tax revenue and putting massive strain on schools, public safety, and local services. Downtown San Francisco now has vacancy rates near 30%, and entire streets of once busy neighborhoods feel empty. California isn't just dealing with layoffs, it's experiencing a full-blown economic reset. And if the most populated state in the country can't hold its job market together, it shows just how fragile the entire U.S. economy has become. Number 1. Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. now has the highest unemployment rate in the entire country, 6.0%, making it the clearest sign that America's job market is cracking at the core. And what's happening here is especially alarming, because the collapse is hitting government jobs. The one sector most people assumed was untouchable. Federal agencies have already cut more than 15,000 positions, wiping out decades-long careers with a single email. Contractors, support staff, and service workers who rely on government offices are getting hit too. When federal budgets tighten, D.C. bleeds immediately. The cost of living turns every job loss into a financial crisis. A one-bedroom apartment averages $2,300 a month, and even households making $90,000 a year feel squeezed once taxes, healthcare premiums, childcare costs, and basic expenses are paid. For unemployed workers, the math doesn't work at all. Crime and safety concerns are rising as well. Carjackings, robberies, and break-ins have pushed many residents to move into Maryland or Virginia suburbs, leaving entire neighborhoods with fewer businesses and less foot traffic. Downtown D.C., once packed with federal workers, now feels half empty. Restaurants, cafes, and small shops that survived the pandemic are finally shutting down for good. Metro delays, higher fares, and overcrowded public schools add even more strain at a time when families are already struggling to stay afloat. The city that symbolizes national power is now dealing with boarded-up storefronts, shrinking tax revenue, and workers lining up at job fairs. Washington, D.C. isn't just another struggling economy, it's the worst-performing job market in America. And if the nation's capital is collapsing this fast, it shows just how unstable the entire U.S. economy truly is. America's job market is shifting faster than anyone expected, and these states show exactly how deep the cracks are becoming. Rising unemployment, mass layoffs, and shrinking paychecks aren't just headlines. They're the reality millions of families are waking up to right now. From skyrocketing rents to soaring insurance premiums and a housing market that feels completely out of reach, the pressure is hitting workers from every direction. What's happening today is more than a temporary slowdown. It's a warning sign of a much larger economic reset, one that could impact everything from your savings and career to your mortgage, your retirement, and even where you can afford to live. Whether it's federal job cuts in Washington, D.C., tech layoffs in California, or collapsing tourism in Nevada, every part of the country is being pushed into a financial stress test. If you're feeling the impact, shrinking budgets, job insecurity, rising bills, you're not alone. And understanding where the economy is headed next is more important than ever. As unemployment rises and recession fears grow, now is the time to stay informed, protect your finances, and prepare for the changes already sweeping across the U.S. Because if this year has proven anything, it's that the American job market isn't just slowing down, it's collapsing in real time, and the ripple effects are only beginning.